Yo, 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 what's going on, people? It's your boy, the Boxing Lowdown here, and we're here for episode number 52 of the Boxing Lowdown podcast, man. And listen, I'm delighted to be joined by you know who it is, my main guy, do you know what I mean? My father, Mr. Controversial. He's in the building, Mr. Laurie from AFTV. What's going on, man? He's in the house.
1, 2,
What's that? What's that?
3, 4, 5,
I think I know what you're inciting, man.
6, 7. Go to the neutral corner and make sure you take another 10 seconds, yeah? Controversy.
Listen, man. People.
No, I'm only winding you up. Yeah. Big up the Gypsy King, man. Big up the Gypsy King.
Gotta big him up.
To the Gypsy King, man. I still don't check for a lot of the bullshit, but I've got to give him his props, man. What a fight!
Let's get into,
you know what I mean?
Let's get into it, man. You know what it is. I'll start off, as we always do. Those of you guys that are joining the podcast, you know what it is. You know the procedure. You know the drill. Leave your comments. We'll happily reply to them. Don't forget to drop a like. It don't cost you nothing. Drop a like, share the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're almost near that 1,000 mark, people. We're almost there. Do you know what I mean? Once we get there, then we can build from that. But big up to everyone in the chat. We've got people waiting to speak to Laurie already, and they want to get his opinion on Fury against Wilder. Do you know, if you guys don't know already, Laurie was backing Wilder in that fight. Obviously, it didn't go Wilder's way, but a tremendous fight, so to speak. I gave my opinion on the on the show on Monday. So yeah, we'll hear Laurie's opinion because I know a lot of people are asking. And literally, just even before we even open this podcast, we've got comments asking for Laurie. So listen, man, we'll get into it. Do you know what I mean? There's only one place to start, but let me go through the comments here already, and then we'll get on to you, Laurie. IB has put here, hello, Daryl, and especially hello to Laurie. IB has also said here, and I'll let you answer this. I'll let you answer this in a minute because I'll go through the other comments. But IB has said here, Laurie, you gave us reasons why Fury was ill prepared, and he still came through. Incredibly, showed unmatchable heart. You have to give him credit now. He's a modern great. He carried himself very well as well. So I'll let you answer that in a minute. I'll come back to that.
Well, listen, man, I got it wrong.
I'll let you. I'll come back to that. I'll come to that. I'll go through the rest of these comments. Avon has said here, evening, my brothers. Good evening, Avon, man. Good evening, bro. DS has put here, bless up, my bro. Bless up, Unks. He's put, damn, I'm looking forward to this. Francisco has said here, good morning from Arizona, brothers. Conrad has said here, what's up? I hope you guys are good. You know what I mean? Dean Sinclair is ready. Ian Hamilton in the building. He's put, evening, guys. Let's go. So, yeah, let's get straight to it, man. Let's go to IB's comment first of all. I'll read it out again. He said here, Laurie, you gave us reasons why Fury was ill-prepared, and he still came through. Incredibly, showed an unmatchable heart. You have to give credit now that he's a modern great. He carried himself very well as well. So let's hear your thoughts on it.
Well, listen, man, I have to show some humility because obviously I got it wrong. I had said all along I thought Wilder would win. I genuinely believed it. It was no cap, no fronting. I put it out there. I thought Wilder would win. I illustrated my reasons. But I have to say, credit to the Gypsy King. He was the better man on the night. In fact, he's been the better man on 2 out of 3 of the nights that they fought. Because the first fight, which was a draw, I actually thought that was fair. And as I've said previously, many, many times before, I thought Fury could consider himself lucky in the first fight because I thought he was counted out. I thought that was a long count. Lo and behold, we get to the third fight and there's long count controversy once more. So these two guys, man, they're seemingly linked to each other, whether they like it or not, man. Probably one day when, you know what I mean, they're both retired and they're old men, they're probably going to get together in a bar and have a real laugh, you know what I mean? What's transpired between the two of them. But to go back to the fight itself, man, and what I said, I stand by what I said, man. I'd been following the lead up to the fight closely. There was a lot of speculation that the Gypsy King, although he'd been training, he wasn't really focused. He hadn't been in good form. I didn't think he particularly wanted this fight. I thought he wanted the Joshua fight, and it kind of showed. I wasn't convinced about the COVID. I was pretty sure that was not genuine. And listen, man, we don't really know, do we? All I do know is that the commission, the Las Vegas Commission, released a statement saying that despite their request they had not received any written evidence that the Gypsy King and his camp did contract COVID. There's lots of rumors out there that he didn't, including pictures of him at a car dealership in the days after having COVID. And as I said to you, Daryl, you've had COVID, I've had COVID. You don't catch COVID one day and then be out taking selfies the next.
I could never have gone to no car dealership.
You know
I could never have gone there.
Yeah,
but
so
we
there
don't
was
know when
reason
he got
to
it.
doubt. Let's just say that there was reason to doubt. And I have to admit, I'm going to keep it 100, man. I wanted Wilder to win, so that probably swayed my decision, my prediction as well. I wanted Wilder to win because I've been following Wilder for a long time. He's got a great backstory for those who care to want to be interested. You know what I mean? This guy was basically driving a truck around, doing not much of his life at 18, 19 years old, walked into a boxing gym, and within a year, he was representing America in the 2008 Olympics. He was the only one on that team to win a bronze medal. He had, coming out of the Olympics, still no real job prospects. He had a daughter that was suffering from spina bifida, and he basically turned pro to look after her. Years later, he's a world champion with a record 10 defenses. So he's got a great story. He's a gregarious character. I know he says some things that are a bit left field and a bit odd and a bit whack, but let's face it, man, a lot of boxers are like that. So I liked Wilder. And the Gypsy King, as you know, I'm not going to go into it all over again, but there are certain things about his character that I found a bit disreputable. So I wanted Wilder to win, and I took some stick because I said I thought he would win. But again, I'm going to give the Gypsy King credit, and I'm going to give Wilder credit as well, because he came out of this fight as well with a lot of credit, with a lot of newfound credit in a lot of people's eyes. And it was, let's face it, man, it was a great fight, one of the all-time great fights.
What did you? Well, I was watching you on the Don Robbie channel. I saw you on the watch along there, man. You couldn't contain your excitement in that fourth round. You thought it was over at one point as well.
I did. I genuinely thought that was it for Fury, man. Because I've been saying to you, and I've been saying to anyone that would listen, I said, listen, Wilder is not going to outbox Fury. He's going to have to nail him at some stage. And when he nails him, he's going to have to probably nail him again, because Fury's probably going to get up. So when I saw it all unfolding in front of me in that fourth round, I thought, here we go. I thought, you know what I mean? And then, of course, I'd had on the live stream, I'd had the other people on the live stream, my brother and one or two other people coming at me. Oh, you really think Wilder's going to win? Oh, come on. He lost the first two fights. There's no way he can beat Fury. He's not a better boxer than Fury. And I was trying to explain to them why I felt that Wilder would win. So obviously, when Wilder knocked him down, especially after, you know what I mean, what had transpired before, I was thinking to myself, this is it. It's over. Of course, it wasn't over. But yeah, man, what a fight.
Unbelievable fight, man. And they replayed it on BT Sport last night. I watched it again. And like, I watched it from a more, you know what I mean, because obviously I know what was going to happen. So I was able to be more analytical in my approach with watching it. And listen, Wilder started off very well. You know what I mean? Those body shots, he was doing very well, targeting the body. It was a clear game plan, what he was looking to do, looking to slow Fury down. Obviously, Fury put on a lot of weight. And it was working. But you just saw from Wilder, for me, he was putting everything into all of those shots. He was putting everything into those punches. And by the fourth round, his mouth was open. He was knackered. So, like, his conditioning, do we call that into question? Or did Fury have some sort of emotional, mental thing over him where it made him tired even more? You know, it kind of drained his energy even more. Can you look at it like that? Or do you think it might be down to his conditioning? Because, like I said, Wilder in the first round did well. I thought that he did very well up until the end, and he got caught with a right hand from Fury. The second round, I thought Fury won that round, but it was a bit closer. Third round, obviously, Fury knocked him down. Fourth round, Wilder knocked Fury down twice, but he was knackered at this point. He knocked him down twice. Then pretty much after the fifth round, like sixth round onwards, it was really just all Fury. And did he get into Wilder's head? Was Wilder emotionally drained as well as physically drained?
Well, listen, in hindsight, all of those things you said are possible. You are right, though. Wilder, that is, he came out in the first round. He took the center of the ring, which I thought he would have to do. Um, like you said, he was throwing those shots to the body, and it looked to have a lot on it. You know what I mean? But nevertheless, I was thinking, yeah, this is a good, positive start. He did look, even then, a bit slightly ungainly because it was something that he's not used to doing, Wilder. I've never really seen him go to the body like that before. And because he's not a natural, it kind of showed a little bit. And then, as you quite rightly said earlier, when you introduced this, you said that right towards the end of that round, maybe in the last few seconds of what, let's face it, was a good round for Wilder up until that point, Fury nailed him with a 1-2, right over the top. And you could see a lot of people, the guys who I was on the stream with, they probably didn't notice that. But to the trained eye, I'm sure you saw it, to the trained eye, you could see that Wilder was visibly shaken by that right hand. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, guys just gone and had a really good round. Then at the end of that round, he's got clipped. You know what I mean? And I was thinking, well, I wonder what's going to happen in the second round. In the second round, it was a lot more competitive. A lot of people gave that round to Fury. And you could start to see, man, that Tyson was warming up and he was starting to get a bit more comfortable in there. And the reverse was the case with Wilder. Because one of the things I was slightly worried about with Wilder going into this fight, and this is something that I've mentioned on your show, is that he'd been talking a lot of smack, hadn't he? About vengeance, about violence, about people losing their life in the ring. And I'm thinking to myself, you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself. And you know what it's like when you carry a lot of hate and vengeance around in your heart. That can be heavy on the soul, man. You know what I mean? So that translates into nervous energy. And you know what I mean? So all of a sudden, you're in that situation, man. And just the sheer magnitude of the event. Plus, you've got a real behemoth in front of you, Tyson Fury. Big, strong guy, confident, seems to take up most of the ring. It must be quite daunting to face an opponent like that, you know what I mean? And I just think it started to sap Wilder of his energy. And by about round 3, you could see it, man. You know what I mean? He looked a little less coordinated in his legs. The movement wasn't smooth. The cognitive function wasn't all the way there. And I was already starting to worry about him from the 3rd round. And then when he went down, I was like, "Raw, man, this could be a short night." But to give him his props, man, and I give him massive props. I mean, listen, I knew he had heart. You knew he had heart. But a lot of people out there wouldn't have known about the heart issue. A lot people who didn't see the 2 Luis Ortiz fights, people who didn't see the Spilica fight and the Duhaupas fights and fights like that, where, let's face it, Wilder was losing, especially the 2 Ortiz fights. He was losing. He got hurt in the Ortiz fights. And those were basically come from behind wins. So I knew he had that in him. But for him to show it in a fight like this, man, it was, you know what I mean? It was something else.
Yeah. Go to a comment from Dean Sinclair. He said here, he's put 2 comments, so we'll go through them both. He's put here, coming in at 17 stone hindered Wilder. I would rather him had bulken up and strengthened his legs rather than his top half. He was blowing towards the end of the 2nd round. And I have to agree with that as well.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's a combination of the negative energy that he was carrying into the ring, a combination of the weight he'd put on. I mean, I'm not going to try and be wise after the event. I thought it was right of him to put on a little bit of weight. But then when you do that, you never know how you're going to carry it in a fight situation. I'm sure inspiring, he would have felt okay with it. But obviously, when you're under the pressure of the situation, the bright lights, and you're in the fight itself with another man looking to take your head off, it's a completely different situation. But I did think that the extra weight probably would help him sort of negate the physicality of Tyson Fury, if only a little bit. But it would appear to have hastened his gas tank running down, man. You know what I mean? So yeah. I think it was a combination of factors: the weight, the negative energy, the fact that he seems to put everything on his punches. That's the thing about Wilder. There's no real setup, is there? You know what I mean? It's like 0 to 100, man. Every punch is thrown. And like I said, anybody out there watching this show, go and hit the heavy bag. If you try and load up and hit the heavy bag with your hardest shot every single time, within a couple of rounds, I don't care how fit you are, you're going to feel that. And then, like I said, transfer that to a fight situation, and you can start to understand why he wasn't all the way there in terms of his stamina and his conditioning.
Another question from Dean Sinclair here. He's put here, question for both of you. What's your top 5 heavyweights and in what order? Before I answer this, did you see Frank Warren's top 6 heavyweights?
No.
Did you see Frank Warren's top 6 heavyweights?
No, but I've heard he's been blowing smoke all week. And I just want to say on that as well.
Unbelievable what his
I just want to say he probably had Shane Fury in as number 5. You know what I mean? That's how much dick riding Frank Warren's doing now. He's probably got Shane Fury and John Fury in his top 6.
No, I'll tell you what Frank Warren's top 6 heavyweights are. Tyson Fury number 1, Alexander Usyk number 2, Joe Joyce number 3, Daniel Dubois number 4, Dylan White number 5, and AJ number 6. I don't know if this is trolling. It's got to be.
It is.
It's
like
trolling.
I said, the only surprise is he's not got Tommy Fury, Shane Fury, and John Fury in there as well. Might as well, you know what I mean, make it a Fury top 4. Yeah. But no, on a serious note, it was interesting for me. You had a lot of people before the fight who were saying things like Wilder's shit, he ain't no good, this and that, rare. Tyson Fury beats him in an epic fight. And then those same people that were running Wilder down are now saying Fury's the greatest heavyweight of all time. And someone make that make sense to me. If he was that bad before and Fury's done, which let's face it, those people expected Tyson to do, then why are you labeling it? Because you didn't have him as an all-time great before. You weren't saying that before. Now off the back of the Wilder win, you're saying he's an all-time great, the best ever, best British heavyweight ever, better than Lennox Lewis, which is palpable nonsense. He's beaten Wilder 2 out of 3 times, but it has to be said, the rest of the resume is not as strong. For example, I think he's got a better resume than Fury outside of the Wilder fights.
Let's answer this question here. I'll go first. My top 5 heavyweights in order right now, as of today. Tyson Fury is number 1, in my opinion. Yeah. Alexander Usyk number 2. AJ number 3. Wilder 4. And Dylan White number 5. That's my top 5 right now.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't have any like major arguments with that. But listen, man, styles make fights.
But what's yours? What's your top 5 then?
I'll definitely have the Gypsy Kings number 1 right now. Yeah. I probably would have Usyk in as number 2. I don't know about Wilder and AJ as for 3 and 4. I really don't, because I think those 2 fights, those last 2 fights that Wilder's had with Fury, I reckon he's already showing signs of decline, man.
What about the resume then? Well, I mean, if you go and look at the resumes of both of them, you wouldn't have AJ above him, or?
Yeah, I would have AJ above Wilder, to be honest. That might not be a popular opinion, but I think I would.
No, that's what I said. That's why I said that.
Okay. But it's difficult, you know, because there's some young guys coming up. I mean, on that bill, on the undercard, I was very impressed with Frank Sanchez.
What about 4 and 5 then?
Would you he schooled a Jaguar. He schooled a Jaguar. And I'll tell you what, he's got to be in the shake-up.
Yeah, but we're talking top 5 though. Top 5. What's about your 4th and 5th? So you've said...
Well, it's Wilder. Yeah, I think Wilder's for the 3 and 4. And then... And Dillian, like you said, yeah.
Okay, so
but definitely the Gypsy King, you would have to put him as number 1. I think he's proved it. He's not beaten Usyk yet, but I think the way he's beaten Wilder in these last 2 fights, and the fact that he took the championship, he started this whole roller coaster when he beat Klitschko a few years back. You would have to, the fact that he's unbeaten as well, you would have to put him as number 1. I've got no problems in doing that at all. I'm still not his greatest fan outside the ring, although this might have shown, he was showing a bit more humility after this fight as well, if you notice, because I think he realised, man, he'd been taken there to that spot, you know what I mean, that these boxers like to talk about. He knows, man, that he was in there with somebody that was looking to take his head off, and nearly did. And he showed a lot of heart as well. And I think that's, he's shown some humility there that I didn't always think I would see with him. So props to him as well. IB
has said here, Malik Scott was a credit to himself. He also carried himself humbly. He's almost a yin. He's almost a yang to Wilder's yin. I like the dynamic. Yeah, Malik Scott, he earned a lot of praise after the fight just for his humility. I thought the interview that he carried on IFL was a great watch. It was about nearly an hour long. It was a great watch. And, you know, he's carried himself very well, Malik Scott. There was a lot of talk about him going into this fight. But, you know, I've always said that, you know, connection is just as important or almost as important. Do you know what I mean? And, like, they do have a connection there. And you can see that Malik Scott really does care for Deontay Wilder. And I thought he carried himself very well. I thought that he looked very well with Malik Scott in there.
Yeah, he did. And you have to remember as well that this is his first rodeo, isn't it, as a trainer, really, in a massive fight like this. I mean, some people were being a bit disingenuous after and was criticising Malik Scott and saying, oh, it's the same old Wilder. Well, what did they expect people to witness? You're not going to see like a primetime Muhammad Ali, you know what I mean, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, are you? You know what I mean? Like, they tried their very best to get him in the best condition they could. He came there with a game plan. For about a round and a half, he was executing the game plan. But then, you know what I mean, he got hit, and slowly but surely, Fury started taking over. So I don't think you can really blame Malik Scott for that. I didn't really, because I was doing the watch-along, I wasn't able to discern what he was saying to Wilder in the corner. So that might have given me, you know what I mean, another insight into how good he is as a trainer. So I didn't get the benefit of that because I was doing the watch-along. But it's clear to see that Wilder came in there trying different things to what he's done previously. Like I said, I've never seen Wilder throwing jabs to the body like that. You know what I mean? I know he didn't keep it up, but I've never even seen him do that before. So I think Malik Scott is definitely a positive for his career. Having said that, he still lost. He took a bit of a beating, man. In fact, more than a bit of a beating. He took a beating, man. And that's 2 in a row now. I have to say, man, that the long-term prognosis for his career is not good. I mean, I said to you after the fight when we spoke, I said, if it was down to me, I'd like to see Wilder retire. But we all know he's not going to retire. The man's ego will not allow him to go out of the sport off the back of 2 devastating losses. And when you think about it as well, his stock has kind of risen through defeat, really, hasn't it? I'm sure a lot of people who wasn't keen at all on Wilder, at the very least now, they're showing him some grudging respect because they know he's a warrior, a man with tremendous heart. Yeah. So there will be a lot of people now that, even though we lost, they will have a renewed interest in the man's career. And I think he will inevitably fight again. If he does fight again, they will have to be extremely careful in the way they match him going forward.
Yeah. Let's go to another comment here. Francisco says, I did feel for Laurie during that watch along because he seemed annoyed by the other folks in the studio who don't take the sport as seriously as him.
Well, is that true? Because that's that, you know what? I'm glad big up Francisco for that because he's spot on with that. But what it is, I tried to subdue it as much as possible because I didn't want to come across as a bit of an arsehole. Oh, you think you know, and blah, blah, blah. And especially as my man Wilder was getting a bit of a pacing. So I had to keep a bit of a lid on it. But
I can see it as well. I can see it as well.
Get your point across, and you got man shouting in your ear that don't really appreciate the nuances, and you know what I mean, of the sport. You have to kind of say to yourself, Laurie, just don't engage in the shouting match with them. But I was getting a little bit. You're right, Francisco. It was difficult, man, because like you not being there, Daryl, I couldn't really bounce off you. So when we did the AJ Usyk thing, a similar thing happened. I was getting shouted down every time I gave AJ a round. What? You know what I mean? And luckily you were there to sort of put things into his proper perspective and say, listen, man, okay, AJ's losing the fight, but he did actually win that round, or he had a better round. But obviously, Darren, you were absent for this through the COVID, and it was a similar thing there. As soon as I said anything positive about Wilder, all them man were just jumping on me. Oh, he's getting battered. Because I'm sure you saw it, Darryl. There's one of those rounds where Wilder had taken a bit of a pasting, especially towards the latter half of the round. Could have been round 6 or 7. And then right at the end of the round, they were on the ropes and he landed an uppercut and it wobbled Fury. Remember that? You saw Fury walking back to his corner and his legs was a bit unsteady. So I've jumped up and I'm saying, oh, he wobbled it, you want it? Ah, shut up, man. So it's little things like that, man. But hey, man, listen, you've got to appreciate that I'm sharing a platform on that watch along with guys who are not nuanced about boxing. So they probably didn't even see it. You know what I mean? And if they did see it, they probably wouldn't have noticed it. But hey.
IB said here, what is it with Wilder and his bleeding ear? I was thinking that, like that ear, like he got cut in the ear in the second fight and again in the third fight. Like Fury.
Yeah, but you know what that is? That is like, that's what you call wear and tear in the ring. That's like you getting cut on your eyebrow, right? Say you've never been cut there before. You get it stitched up or you get it, whatever, it heals up. You think it heals up, but then you get hit on it and the same thing happens again. This is why I was saying to you, Daryl, about the amount of punishment that Wilder's taken in his last 3 fights, especially the last two. I mean, the last two, he's taken a bit of a battering, man. You know what I mean? And Tyson Fury, even though he's not the biggest puncher by heavyweight standards, he's still 19 plus stone, massive gargantuan man. And he's got massive hands. He's a trained athlete. He's wrapped them hands up and he's put them in 10-ounce gloves. Do you know how it's difficult to explain to people, just, you know what I mean? Just how hard these guys hit. I mean, I was having a conversation with somebody the other day and they were trying to tell me things like UFC guys hit harder than boxers because they're wearing 4-ounce gloves. And I'm like, bro, no, it doesn't work like that. I said to them, how many UFC men have you seen killed in a ring? You know what I mean? Compared to boxing, boxing is a more brutal sport when it comes to stuff, getting hit in the head and stuff like that. You know, the UFC guys can tap out and stuff like that. And then when somebody gets knocked down, invariably you'll see the guy run over to the guy that's been knocked down, pound and ground, they call it. And then the next thing you know, the fight's over. Boxing is more brutal insofar as it's more sustained. The beatings are more sustained and you're getting beaten around the head a lot. And these gloves, people don't understand. With boxing gloves, they are not to protect your face or your head. They're to protect the fighter's hands. It's a totally different dynamic. And listen, I'm not trying to denigrate MMA because I love MMA and I respect them guys to the max, but it's a different type of brutality.
Yeah. We've got a lot of comments here, man. We need to get through them. Got a lot in here. Shane's in the chat. Big up Shane. He's put here, he's responding to the Frank Warren top 6 heavyweight list. And he's put here, in the words of my boy Boxing First Vlog, big up Boxing First Vlog, by the way. He's put here, there is bus riding and bike riding, but D-riding ain't a great form of transportation. I'm sorry, Frank Warren, but get off the Vaseline. His top 6 list was ridiculous. It was just like, this is the problem. And Harvey highlights it here. He's saying, I've seen way too many people say Fury is one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. And I find it so disrespectful to the true greatness our sport has seen.
Exactly.
This is the problem. I knew this would be the case if Fury won. Do you know what I mean? And no disrespect, I'm not taking no credit away. But some of the takes I've seen, Sam Jones, Frank Warren, some people on Twitter are like they're saying Fury's the best of all time. They're like
an absolute insult to people like Lennox Lewis and people like that, Larry Owens.
Like you said before, they weren't rating Wilder. They weren't having Wilder up there. But now all of a sudden, Fury's the greatest of all time. It's ridiculous.
And the thing is, with Tyson Fury as well, you know what I mean? If he carries on after this fight the way he's done in previous fights, and listen, I'm not saying he's going to do that, but I'm looking at previous form with him, he'd probably go missing for a year or a year and a half. You know what I mean? So you can't anoint this guy like that yet. He's still got to prove it against the other guys in the division. And like I said, styles make fights. Now, supposing that had been AJ that had clobbered him in the 3rd round like that, he may not have got through the round. I mean, this might be a completely different narrative. Or he could have knocked AJ down and wiped him out. We don't know. But until he fights these guys, we don't know. Yeah. And like I said, all these people now that are anointing Fury as the greatest British heavyweight, perhaps the greatest of all time, and they're doing that off the back of 2 victories over Deontay Wilder. The same Deontay Wilder, by the way, who these same so-called experts and industry people was telling us that Wilder is not a good fighter. He's basic. He's very limited. All he's got is a punch. He's no match for Tyson. Then Tyson Fury does what they said he's supposed to do, and then all of a sudden you're labeling him as the greatest ever. That doesn't make no sense.
No.
And that's regards to Frank Warren as well. I think it was Arsene Wenger who once made that famous comment, didn't he? When he said, everyone thinks they've got the prettiest wife at home. And that's what he's doing with Tyson Fury.
Yeah, ridiculous. It's hard to stomach sometimes, man. But IB has put a comment here. He's put here, with Fury, I think it's easy to not like him in the build-up and how he generally carries himself. But when he gets in the ring and shortly after, it's hard to not admire him. I agree with that, actually.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. Because I'm still not going to take back a lot about what I said about him, man. Listen, we can go back in time and we can see certain things with Tyson Fury, you know what I mean? The ped use and the way that was all covered up. That controversy with the boar meat and all the rest of that and this dodgy farmer and stuff like that. You can't ignore what happened in the Christian Hammer fight when he came into the ring with a detached glove and stuff like that. You can't ignore the videos that the sparring partner made about allegations of glove tampering and stuff like that. Now, listen, I'm not saying that he did that per se, but what I'm saying is that there are allegations that's been out there about Fury for years, yeah? So you just can't ignore that off the back of a great performance against Deontay Wilder in that third fight. What I would say, though, is that in the ring, the man has proved himself to be the better man, and you cannot detract from that. You can't take that away, no matter what you say. And I would like to touch on something briefly. I know, I hope I haven't preempted your presentation too much, because I know you're probably going to ask me about it. But there was a lot being made after the fight, wasn't there, about when Fury went over to Wilder to congratulate him after the fight, and that wasn't reciprocated by Wilder. And Wilder took a lot of stick for that. And whilst I can see where some people might have an issue with it, I didn't really have too much of a problem with it, because you've got to remember, man, these two guys, especially Wilder, were carrying a lot of feelings into this fight. A lot of feelings of hatred, it has to be said, especially on Wilder's side. He felt, now listen, whether we want to believe him or not, Deontay Wilder felt that he'd been cheated in that second fight and that he had a dent in his head and one or two other things that happened to him that he said were not the natural conclusion of being punched in the head with regular gloves. He felt that the gloves had been manipulated and that gave Tyson Fury an advantage. He feels that Fury cheated him. They've gone to hell and back in this fight. The man's beaten, blooded, he sat down. Fury comes over to him. He's probably not in his right mind. He's probably a bit dizzy, a bit woozy or whatever. And he don't like the guy. You know what I mean? It's in the immediate aftermath. Fury's come over. To us, listen, we thought, yeah, great sportsmanship by Tyson Fury. But you have to put yourself in Wilder's position. At that moment, he probably doesn't want to be congratulated by Fury. He probably the last person on earth he wants to see is Tyson Fury. So, you know what I mean? I can understand that reaction. I'm not saying I agree with it per se, but I absolutely understand it. You've seen it in other sports when, in football, for example, when managers lose, you see them go straight down the tunnel and don't want to shake hands. You've seen it on the tennis court where somebody loses, they felt like the other person's cheated and they just walk straight off the court and they get booed and all the rest of it. But so I could see that happening.
I'm kind of.
Since then, he's released a statement and he's addressed that and congratulated the Gypsy King. So that's it.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad that he did do that. You know what I mean? I'm kind of glad because for me, that just sealed off, you know what I mean, a great trilogy. You know what I mean? What's said has been said. Obviously, what's happened has happened. You shared, you know, however many rounds together. The fans were entertained. The fans were really on a high after that. And I'm glad to see Wilder release a statement afterwards, just, do you know what I mean? Yeah. Just to acknowledge and congratulate. I thought that was good. So I'm glad it happened in the end. But more comments here. WM was put here. Evening, brethren. I hope you're all well. Good to have you here, WM. Dean Sinclair said here, there's no way that MMA fighters hit harder than boxers. Hard punching McGregor hit Floyd flush with an uppercut, and Floyd just smiled and walked him down. I have to agree with that as well.
Dean, I've been trying to explain. Listen, I've got some friends of mine who follow MMA. I'll go to a gym where there's quite a few guys who do MMA. And every time I get into a discussion, these are the types of questions that I have to respond to. Oh, I think MMA guys are fitter. I think they're harder. I think they're tougher. They hit harder. I'm like, no, to all of those. You know what I mean? But listen, man, it's territorial. They're going to defend their territory. I'm going to defend mine. But I think I'm right. Listen, guys above welterweight or whatever, they're fighting with, you know what I mean? Not welterweight, sorry, light middle. They're fighting with 10-ounce gloves on. You get a guy like Tyson Fury, who's nearly 20 stone. He's 6'9". He's got tremendous arm extension, you know what I mean? And he's got these massive hands. And he's wrapped the hands and taped them and put them in a 10-ounce glove. That's like a rock, bro. I don't think a lot of these guys understand the power that these men have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's
some
kind of
more
hard
comments
to explain to people who don't know, man.
More comments here. Lamb Chopper said here, Fury are great, question mark. He's got great heart, but the level of skill in that fight was not high. Ian Hamilton has said here, Fury doesn't hold a candle to Lennox Lewis. Lennox didn't pick and choose opponents. Some people are just really ridiculous. Are great for beating one guy 3 times, LOL. And Conrad agrees with that as well.
Yeah, I agree. And that's not to denigrate Tyson Fury. That's just us keeping it real. Because like I said, leading into this fight, the most people were on Twitter, on the internet, and talking that stuff about Wilder's no good. He's got no skills. He's only got a punch. You know what I mean? Fury will get rid of him within 3 rounds. You know what I mean? After the fight now, Fury's an all-time great, best ever, this, that, better than Lennox, better than Tyson, better than Larry Holmes. Come on, man. Keep it real, bro.
Conrad has said here, I really started to like Wilder, but let's be real. Fury got floored 4 times by a guy who literally throws 1 punch properly. So not really having that.
But you know what? On that, you have to also give Wilder credit because, like I said, and I keep saying, you can detract from his so-called skill set all you want. But he must have some skills because he's got the highest KO percentage in heavyweight boxing history, right? He's only lost to 1 man, Tyson Fury. And all those other opponents, you know what I mean, tried. A lot of them other opponents were better boxers than Wilder, but they still couldn't beat him. So you have to give the man credit. He must have some skill to be able to land those punches. Now, I'm not saying his skill level is elite or even top rank or anything like that. I'm not saying that at all. But he must have some basic skill level there that possibly gets overlooked when you look at the overall scheme of things. Because look, like I said, the guy came off the back of driving a beer truck at 19 years old, walked into an amateur boxing gym, and within about a year, he was representing his country. He went to the 2008 Olympic Games in Beijing, and he was the only one in that team, a team that included the likes of Gary Russell Jr. and people like that. Wilder was the only one to win a medal. He won a bronze medal at that Games, and he was basically a novice amateur. So you have to give the man credit.
WM has said here, I would absolutely love to see Wilder versus Ruiz, AJ, White, Joyce. There are plenty of fights out there for Wilder, and I hope he doesn't retire.
Well, from an entertainment perspective, I can get that from WM's point of view. However, if I was one of his brains trust, he probably wouldn't want to hear what I had to say, because I'd be saying, listen, Deontay, you've won a bronze medal in the Olympic Games, you turned pro, you've gone on to win the World Championship, you made a joint record 10 defenses. You know what I mean? You're part of one of the greatest trilogies in heavyweight boxing. You've made mountains of money. You know what I mean? Your health is more important than satisfying the whim of the fans. You know what I mean? So people are talking about putting them in there with all these other guys. You know what I mean? I'm not so sure if that's the best, because I seriously think that those fights with Fury would have taken a lot out of him, man. In fact, I saw it. I'm sure you saw it, Darryl, the way he was tottering around the ring with no balance, just basically fighting on heart and instinct. You know what I mean? As exciting as it was also a little bit sad, because you were seeing in front of you the decline of a fighter right in front of your very eyes. Yeah. Now, if he gets in there with another heavyweight, I'm sorry, but I think you're going to see a similar thing. He's either going to have to knock the guy out in 2 or 3 rounds, or he's going to get beaten up and knocked out again. That is the sad fact of boxing, man.
A lot of people
takes a terrible toll on you physically and mentally.
A lot of people are have been really thrilled at the prospect of a Wilder versus AJ fight, and a lot of people that I spoke to believe Wilder will beat AJ. They feel
well, you do, don't you?
Yeah, I think I don't know, man. I think
No,
Wilder
come
would
on.
land on him. Wilder would
Don't
land
do
on
that.
him.
Don't, you know what I mean?
You're
Don't
not
hype
gonna.
me
You
up.
can't tell me that Wilder wouldn't land. And with AJ, I can't trust the chin. So I'm just like,
Yeah,
I
but
think
you know,
Wilder
say
might
it,
do
bro.
him.
Talk the business.
Yeah, I think Wilder would beat him. I think
Okay,
Wilder would probably
okay.
beat him.
Listen,
But
I think that fight would be a great fight to watch. I think you're looking at two guys that are clearly past their best as well. Wilder more so, because I actually think he's looking like damaged goods in front of our very eyes. With AJ, I don't see the same hunger and passion that he had. I mean, look at the AJ that fought Dillian. Look at the AJ that fought Klitschko, that got knocked down heavily and then came back to knock Klitschko out. The AJ that we're seeing at the moment, man, is not that same guy. Now, whether it's a physical thing or a mental thing, I suspect it's more the latter. I think it's more mental.
I think it's a mental thing.
But Wilder, for sure, man, is not that same guy. Go back and look at some of those fights that he had. Bermain Stiverne and even the Ortiz fight, the Brazil fight, you know what I mean? The fast twitch is not there like it was before, man. The reflexes are not there. Definitely not. The footwork is not there. Not that he had great footwork before, but now he's looking quite ponderous. And his coordination and balance is definitely not there. Now, if he goes in there with a guy like AJ, say what you want about AJ, man. He's only got to hit Wilder once. And if he does, I'm telling you, he's going. So
yeah,
I
but you
don't
could
know,
say
man.
the same.
I
You
see
could
where
say
you're
the
coming
same
from.
about Wilder.
It could literally be who lands first in that fight. But
Yeah.
you couldn't write AJ out.
No, I wouldn't write him out at all.
No.
I wouldn't write. I'm not. It's not cut and dry. I just think Wilder would land first. That's just what I reckon.
And then let's not forget, there's a new crop of heavyweights coming up now. I was, like I said, on the undercard. I was very impressed with Frank Sanchez. He fights out of the Reynoso gym. I hope we're not going to hear of any funny doings. You know what I mean? Because we all know some of the things that's gone on at that gym. I just hope he doesn't become embroiled in it. But talent-wise, anyway, he looks really good. Sharp, good boxer, can fight on the front foot and the back foot. Makes you miss, makes you pay. Dominated a Jagba. I thought that the Jagba-Sanchez fight could be a pick-em fight, but he scored it. Wasn't
very entertaining on the eye, was it?
Not necessarily, but as a boxing purist, as a man, listen, man, we are fight fans, yeah? And no disrespect to the casuals because they enhance the sport. Everyone coming together and watching a fight like that. But if you know your boxing, you saw Frank Sanchez there against Ajagba. Okay, it was nowhere near as exciting as Fury and Wilder. But for me, it was very entertaining because I got to see a guy that I'd heard about. And I thought to myself, this guy is a good bloody fighter, man. He can fight.
Yeah, he looked very good.
And he's going to be in the shake-up, no doubt about it.
Yeah, it could be in the Who Needs Him club.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at some more comments here. Lamb Chopper said, for me, it's 55-45 favor in Wilder's favor against AJ. Would love to see it. Yeah, that sounds about right. For me, anyway.
That fight should be billed as who lands first.
Yeah. WM has said here, Daryl is well and truly off the AJ train. Believe 3 times. No.
3 times?
Listen, happy birthday to AJ, by the way. He turns 32.
Yeah, big up AJ, man.
Big up, man. Happy birthday to AJ.
A lot of people, man, this is not for you, Daryl. But you see some of the comments on Twitter and some of the stuff going around, and you think, come on, bro. Like, anyone would think that Usyk knocked him down 6 times and knocked him out in the 4th round or something, man. You know what I mean? AJ can get better. I seriously question the tactics that was used on that night. And I also question the mentality of AJ going into this fight. However, you know what I mean? He can come again, man. He wasn't beaten up that badly. It's not like Wilder where he was bounced off the canvas several times and then knocked out in brutal fashion. He was just well beaten on the night, yeah? But it's boxing. You can come back from that. He's come back from that a loss before. A worse loss, it could be argued, than against Usyk. He's just got to remodel himself. Now, can he get the win again? We don't know. But they've exercised the rematch clause. The fight will go ahead and we'll see what happens. If he can go back to that, what people are saying is the roadman AJ. A lot of people are giving in, saying, yeah, you've got to go back to the roadman. If he can go back to that, he's got a good chance. I'm not saying he's going to win because as you said on your show last week, Usyk's going to come differently as well. Usyk's got the confidence of already beating him, going 12 rounds and feeling the power and stuff like that. But I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility that AJ could turn this around. Because when he did connect with Usyk, you could see it, man, that it was affecting him. And in fact, Usyk has been honest enough to say after the fight, what was that term he used about being taken to Elon Musk a few times? You know what I mean? He volunteered that information himself, so it must be true. I don't think he was trying to kid anyone with that. So AJ's got a chance, man.
Ian Hamilton says here, let's consider this. Wilder took a lot more damage in 3 fights against Fury than AJ has in his whole career. That's why I'd favour AJ over Wilder, plus the mental damage as well.
I tend to agree with Ian, man. I mean, before these 2 fights, I was kind of leaning towards Wilder because I thought he had the greater speed and the greater fast twitch and athleticism. But I must say, after those 2 long, drawn-out, protracted beatings that he's taken, I have to say, man, that it'll be a shootout. Well, maybe not. Maybe AJ might box cautiously. I don't know. But I'm leaning towards AJ because I seriously think that Wilder is damaged goods. And listen, I hope I'm wrong. But I'm seeing things there, man, in that 3rd fight that worried me, you know what I mean? With his cognitive function not being what it was, the way he was tottering around the ring. Now, listen, I know Wilder's come out and said that he got hit with a shot that affected his equilibrium, and that could well be true. But the problem with that is that we saw that in the 2nd fight as well, didn't we?
Yeah.
Where he's kind of stumbling and bumbling around. And having boxed myself and watched a lot of fighters, I know the signs to look for, and it doesn't look good for him. And that's why I said the long-term prognosis for Wilder's career does not look great. If I was close to him, I'd be saying to him, look, Deontay, you've got nothing to prove, which he hasn't. You've been a champion. You made a record number of defensives. You've made massive amounts of money, but you've also got a wife and kids, and you've got your long-term health to think about. You've got nothing to prove, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
More comments here. Conrad said he would still give AJ a big chance against Fury.
Again, styles make fights.
Styles do make fights. Yeah, they do. WM has said here, Roadman AJ will be back to stop Usyk. We have to remain positive and hopeful. Conrad has said here, for many sports fans, it's always zero or hero. I agree with that.
Well said, Conrad.
Dean has said here, let's not forget the punishment Wilder also took against Ortiz in both fights. He was losing every round in that 2nd fight. And in the 1st fight, he nearly got stopped by Ortiz.
And there was other fights as well. Gerald Washington, Spielliker, Duhaupas, where he lost rounds. And you're thinking, right, and then he pulls it out the bag. You know what I mean? Talking about AJ, I'm going to give you some news hot off the press. I can't reveal my sources. And I know this is going to be slightly controversial. So people, although I'm just giving you the benefit of news that I've heard today.
Oh, we've got an exclusive, man. What?
Yeah, off the record, is that I was chatting to a friend of mine who's quite knee deep in the boxing industry. And he was leading me to believe that AJ is very likely to make changes to his camp. Now, well, I don't know if that means they're going to get rid of McCracken or get somebody on board to help him. But in the conversation that I had, the word Americans was being used as, you know what I mean? Like he's looking at going to America or bringing some Americans on board.
He's in America now.
Right, okay, so it could be there that he's tying that deal up. But that's what I'm hearing, man. That's hot off the press. I went to a function last night and I ran into a few guys I know. They're knee deep in the boxing game, man. And they told me, obviously, like I said, can't give names, wouldn't give names anyway. But yeah, I'm hearing that. And these guys, you know what I mean? They don't talk bullshit, man. They're proper guys, you know what I mean? So watch this space.
You know, if this don't come through, people will be coming through again, you know.
Yeah, they're going to say it's like my Wilder prediction. But listen, man, I can only tell you what I heard. I told you in it, though. I told you. And now I'm telling your viewers, I'm giving them the benefit of what I heard. It may turn out not to be true, but it's a little bit funny, isn't it, that AJ's in America at this time?
Yeah, I saw Eddie Hearn was on the IFL interview today, and he said that AJ was just over there on holiday with a couple of his mates. That's what he said.
Yeah,
but
it's real convenient, right? But listen, I can only say that is the rumor going around anyway. The rumor going around is that AJ is seriously considering making changes to his team, and that he's talking to one or two people, and an announcement is imminent. So we'll see whether I'm right or wrong in it.
Let's watch this. Let's watch this space, man.
Watch this space.
Before I was going to move on, but let me read this comment here. Ian Hamilton has said, Laurie has got more inside scoop than Gareth Davis. He could be the next Mike Coppinger. Did you hear that question from Gareth Davis?
Oh, that guy, man.
That question
why
where
did
he
you have to ruin his
literally
podcast
asked,
by bringing his name up?
he literally asked Tyson Fury, well, he said to him, oh, you're not going to go back into depression, are you? Or something like that. It was like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, what are you doing? He literally asked Fury that straight after his fight.
Gareth Davis is an idiot. I've said it before on your show, man. The guy has no integrity. The guy is just an idiot, man. You know what I mean? I don't care how many degrees he's got or how posh he wants to talk. He's one of the worst boxing journalists out there.
Yeah.
Probably the worst.
Yeah, he is.
So he's a man I've got no time for as a journalist. Listen, he may be an all right guy. I shouldn't really totally dump on him. I mean, I have met him before and I wasn't impressed. I have to keep it real. But he may be an all right guy. But
I've never met him, so I can't judge him like that.
His boxing reporting and stuff like that, very unimpressive. And I think a lot of people agree with me on that.
Yeah, I think they do. I think he got a lot of stick on Twitter. He got a lot of stick after that question, and just some of his takes in general about
just a bumbling fool, man.
Like that. Like
he's a bumbling fool. You know what I mean? There are some very good journalists out there. I like Adam Cattrall. I like Richie Woodall.
Yeah.
My boy Ronald McIntosh. There's lots of guys out there, man, that know this sport and give good service to the sport. Even Steve Bunter, I wasn't really that keen on. He's way better than Gareth A. Davis.
Oh yeah, he's much better. Yeah.
Way better. That guy is at the real low end of the totem pole in terms of journalism. He's at the bottom end of the totem pole with people like, what's that black guy from America called? The one that
Raja Rahim. Oh, he's one of the worst. I can't stand that guy, man.
Yeah, that guy.
I can't stand him. Nah, not a fan of him at all.
Yeah, even Gareth A. Davis belong in that same pot. Just dick riders, man, with a camera and a microphone. You know what I mean? Yeah. Dick riders with a camera and a microphone.
Francisco said here, is AJ in California? Eddie Reynoso has a gym in San Diego. Well, I know that obviously Eddie Hearn is in Fresno right now for that's in California for Mikey Garcia and Sandor Martin this week.
I also know that Eddie Hearn signed up a fighter, isn't it? Montana Love.
Yeah, but I don't know where AJ is. I don't know if he's nearby. I don't know. I'm not sure. Not sure. We'll go to more comments here. Shane has said here, bro, you like me as well. None of them, man, are on my level. He's talking about those journalists. You know, Shane's got a thing with those journalists.
Yeah,
Shane's also a journalist.
Man, one thing about Shane, man. Shane, big up Shane.
He knows his stuff, Shane.
He's very opinionated, but he knows his stuff. And Shane can argue for days about boxing, and I respect him. I respect him way more than I do Gareth A. Davis. Yeah. Way more. And let's be honest as well, Gareth A. The reason why he's so disappointing, Gareth A. Davis, is that he's in a position where he should be able to maximize that position of privilege that he's got, where he's able to travel to these fights, go behind the scenes and pick up information, go to gyms, interview people. And he should be at an advanced level. But instead of that, he just comes across as a dick riding fan. You know what I mean? He's just nonsense, mate. He really is.
Have to agree. Listen, we ain't got long left on the show, but I want to speak to you about the two shows this weekend. Obviously, we've got the Boxer show in Newcastle. The Ritson fight is off, I believe. But we do have...
Yeah, I saw your boy hammering Hank Lundy on IFL TV. Shout out to Coogan, by the way, on IFL TV, talking that Ritson ducked him and scared and typical Hank Lundy talk. You know what I mean? But so it looks like Ritson and Lundy is not going to happen. Yeah,
but we do have, obviously, Savannah Marshall in action. We have Chris Eubank Jr. added to the bill now. We also have Hughie Fury against Christian Hammer that night as well. Your thoughts on the Boxer show and just the Boxer in general. I mean, they had a Boxer show a couple of weeks ago. I think it was their first one where it had Richard Riakporhe and David Avanesian on there. Eubank Jr. was supposed to be on there, but he wasn't, so he's been moved to this one. But yeah, you looking forward to the shows this weekend? Any of them? The boxer show?
I'll tell you what I would say is that compared to the show we had last week, oh man, some incredible fights.
Oh yeah,
on that Liverpool
one.
Card,
yeah.
So, and shout out, man, to Ted Cheeseman and Troy Williamson. That fight was possibly fight of the year. You know, an absolutely incredible fight. And unlike the Wilder Fury, which was a bit one-sided, although it was a great fight, it was a bit one-sided. This was nip and tuck for many rounds.
Cheeseman always goes to the well, man. He always goes to the well. I was just thinking, like, how often can he keep doing this?
Exactly.
He's only 26.
I'd like to see him retire. I saw he released
what now? You want to see him retire now?
Yeah, because listen, man, I've boxed, man. I've got friends in this game, and I'm not going to name names. I know people, you know what I mean, in London and various other places where I've been, and guys who can barely hold a conversation. And the reason why that is because they went on too long in this sport. So I speak from a kind of protective element. I love these guys. I respect them to the max, even though sometimes I don't like them. The likes of Fury, I don't like the stuff that he goes on with, but I have that deep found respect for them. When I see a man taking beatings like Ted Cheeseman, I'm thinking that protective element in me comes out, and I think somebody needs to sit this guy down, man, and say, Ted, either you're going to take a year or two out or just allow it, leave it, man. I mean, the man said in his statement after the fight on Twitter that he's made some decent amount of money out of the game. He was at a very low point with gambling addiction. He's overcome that. He's got a business. He's got a beautiful fiance. He's got kids. Why do you want to keep getting punched in the head? And let's be honest, man, Ted Cheese, when you look at that landscape that he's operating in, man, there's some sharks swimming around in that water at like middleweight. I don't think he's going to win a rematch with Troy Williamson. If I'm Ted Cheese, you don't go anywhere near that guy again, because Troy Williamson is coming into his prime, whereas Ted Cheeseman has peaked and he's on the way down. And the problem with that as well is that he's picking up a tremendous amount of punishment. But anyway, he probably.
I've always thought he's got more. He's got ability. Ted. It's not like he's got no ability, but he just loves to go into a tear-up.
Yeah, he's a natural warrior, man. Sometimes with these guys, you know what I mean? One of my favorite fighters of all time, man. I loved watching that guy. I used to go to the gym and try and imitate him. Terrible Terry Norris. Anybody that's watching this, go and watch some of that guy's early fights. He had everything, man. Skill, power, heart, conditioning. He had the lot. Charisma. He was one of my favorite fighters. In fact, he beat up one of my all-time favorite fighters. Sugar Ray Leonard dropped him a couple of times. Could have stopped him probably. You know what I mean? He was devastating. Terry Norris today can hardly hold a conversation. It's so sad. When you watch a documentary on YouTube about him. Meldrick Taylor, another one. You know what I mean? I can name so many. Riddick Bowe. The list goes on of guys who have stayed in the sport too long, taken a couple of beatings too many, and now they're unrecognizable from what they were many years ago. So that's why I say these things. You know what I mean? And Ted Cheeseman, like I said, British title holder, tremendous warrior. But let's be honest, man, he's not going to get above that level. He's just not got it. It's no disrespect. It is what it is. He's a good fighter, but he's reached his level. But the problem for him is he's starting to take some real beatings in there, and it's not good. I mean, you saw the way he was knocked out on Saturday. Yeah. That's horrible to watch, really.
Yeah, it was a bad knockout, man. When your legs limp under your body like that,
yeah,
it's a bad knockout. It's a bad knockout.
Williamson can bang, man. You know what I mean? And he's a young, hungry guy.
But before the ending, it wasn't like he was dominated, Cheese. I mean, it was a conclusive ending. Very conclusive how it ended. But up until then, Cheeseman was in the fight, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. But he got knocked out badly, Daryl. And he took a beating in the process. I mean, okay, it was nip and tuck. But he would, in every round, it seemed he was getting shook, wasn't he?
Yeah.
You know? And those type of things, trust me, sometimes they say it's better to get a clean knockout than to take a sustained beating in the ring. I've always heard, I used to hear people say that. You know, so being gyms, and people used to say, you know what, it's better to get knocked out cold than rather than take a sustained beating round after round. And you think to yourself, no one wants to get knocked out. But I kind of see the logic of that now.
Yeah.
And the Fowler-Smith fight, that was a really good fight. I thought Fowler made a decent start, man, but once Liam Smith kicked into gear, the toughness and the experience and those wily old skills that he's got proved too much. So I'm looking at that card last week compared to this one this week, and I'm not that excited. Although I'll be interested to see how Eubank looks, and his opponent's talking smack, so he looks like he's come to fight. So that should be interesting.
Yeah.
But it's not got the same gravitas as last week's fight.
I mean, it'll be hard to top last week, though, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
I
very
guess we
hard.
can't be spoiled, can we? But
Very hard.
yeah, I mean, I saw like with the show in Newcastle. I mean, I do like watching Savannah Marshall. Don't know much about her opponent, so I'm guessing she'll steamroll her. Huey Fury and Christian Hammer. I mean, that don't really that doesn't do it for me, really. But I mean, obviously,
that might be interesting to see.
I'll tune in. I'll tune in, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see what happens there.
Talking of ladies' fights, that fight last week was a good fight, wasn't it? Your mate,
Shannon Courtney.
What is she on, man? Shannon Courtney, like, have a word with yourself, Shannon Courtney. What are you talking about? That did you see when she been soundly out? I think she lost every round bar say one round. And then when the decision was announced, which I thought was way closer than it should have been, by the way, she's there turning around and going, I'm like, what are you?
A lot of people on Twitter were celebrating that, you know.
And then if that wasn't bad enough, she's saying after the fight, sat next to the girl as well, you know. She's got the brazen cheek to say, oh, I thought I won, and I'm not giving the girl any credit. I felt so sorry for that American girl. She was like, no, I don't appreciate the way you're saying that you thought you won the fight. I clearly won. And, you know what I mean? Then I look on Twitter the next day and Shannon Courtney was getting absolutely destroyed on Twitter, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Sometimes you just got to have a bit of humility in life, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But she's got a rematch clause now.
Well, I don't see her beating that girl again, you know? Do you? I don't.
No,
unless you can knock her out.
Nah, not on that performance. She's going to have to improve
Shannon Courtney is a gutsy girl. You know what I mean? She can fight. I'll give her that. But that girl, especially in terms of skill, is way above her, man.
Yeah.
I was actually quite impressed with that girl's skill level. You know what I mean? And I can't see Shannon Courtney beating her in a rematch unless that American girl gets stiffed on the cards. You know what I mean?
Question here from Cho Girl Sherpa. Big up, man. I think the first time I've seen you here. They've put here, will Jake Paul beat Tommy Fury? That fight's looking like it's going to be announced. I don't know. I'm guessing.
I'll tell you what, man. My money would be on Jake Paul.
I think my money will be on Tommy Fury, man. I can't see. I think he'd beat Jake Paul.
No. 1 second. I'm just all right. Take care. Well, I don't know, man. Tommy Fury, I'm not impressed with his skill set. I think Jake Paul has probably shown me more skills than Tommy Fury has. Maybe Tommy Fury might land a haymaker and knock him out. Who knows? But I can comfortably predict that fight.
I don't even know.
I think they're both quite very ordinary, aren't they? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
None of them ain't going anywhere in terms of, you know, being successful and winning titles. None of them are not going anywhere. That is, you know what I mean?
Jake Paul by controversial decision or something. I don't know. But
yeah, I mean, if it's a Jake Paul, it will be a Jake Paul promotion. So he'll probably beat Tommy Fury on points.
Yeah, but I saw Fury and everyone else. I saw Tyson Fury say if Tommy Fury was to lose that, then his whole surname would have to go. Yeah, it's strip him of his Fury name.
It's one thing to say that out the ring. It's another thing to make it happen in the ring. Look at some of the stuff that Wilder was saying before. All those words mean nothing, do they? Once you step through the ring, words mean nothing. We seen it last week. Some of the stuff Wilder was saying about, you know what I mean, fight to the death and this and that, rare. It's all entertaining. All, you know what I mean, all provides very entertaining backstory to the fight. But once you get between those ropes in front of the lights, you and the other guy, that's it, mate. And like I said, to me, with that fight is going to take place on a Tommy Fury promotion. Because let's be honest, Tommy Fury.
Paul.
Sorry, yeah, on the Jake Paul. Jake Paul is not going to come to England, is he? That fight is going to be in America. It's going to be a Jake Paul promotion. And then if it goes to points, are they going to vote against him? Of course they're not.
Dean Sinclair has said here, it's gone under the radar, but one of the judges had the Shannon Courtney Mitchell fight as a draw.
Yeah, I did allude to the scoring in that fight. Absolutely ridiculous. I think she won one round. It was the second round I think I gave to her. Because
I think she won more than one round.
Do you?
Yeah, I think she won more than one round.
2 rounds then. Two. But listen, you know, and I know that she come nowhere near close to winning that fight.
No,
she was
didn't
well
go,
beaten.
Mm.
She was well beaten, man. And for her to do that little fake shock and all, like, it was just cheesy, man. Isn't it?
Yeah, it was a
That
bit
was some
corny.
goofy shit she was.
But she had a leg, she had a leg brace on. Do you know what I mean? She started her menstrual cycle at that time, you know. So
And it's interesting you mentioned the menstrual cycle because, I mean, I don't know too much about these things. But when I went on social media, I'm seeing lots of, I mean, Michaela Mayer, one or two
yeah, I
other
saw
women
her.
came
Yeah,
out
she's
and said
always
this
going
and
at
that.
Shannon Courtney, though.
Yeah, they've said, no, but it wasn't just Michaela Mayer, who's a known non-fan of Shannon Courtney, but there was one or two other female boxers as well. Said, listen, man, this is an occupational hazard for women's boxers. We all have to go through this at some stage. I've always made the weight. Why didn't she? So then you're revisiting that and you're thinking, well, it's a bit unprofessional in it. And then coming to the ring in a knee brace like that. I mean, was she looking for excuses in advance?
Yeah.
I don't know. But it wasn't a good night for her, man. Her reputation took a bit of a battering.
Well, her reputation was a bit bad anyway, but she's got even worse after that.
Yeah.
Like Conrad said here, though, he's put here, she's got that Eddie rematch clause, rematch room. You know what I mean? Rematch room. That's what we're going to have to call them now. Rematch room. Because I don't know where that rematch clause came from. Do you know what I mean?
I'm old school. I thought you had to earn rematches. You know what I mean? Nowadays, it's just written into the contract that you have no matter what. You could get beaten up and blown out in the first round, and you still get a rematch. Why?
Big up Thea Jacobs in the chat, man. There's put here, smash the likes, people. Yeah, hit the like button, people, man. Hit that like button, share the video, subscribe. Big up Thea Jacobs for your comment,
hit that
man.
like button like Wilder hit Fury in the fourth round, or like Fury hit Wilder in that 11th round, whichever way you want. But just hit the like button.
Just hit the like button, man. It's free. It's free. Avon Barksdale has said here, got a question for Laurie. He's put, Laurie, did you ever, well, he's definitely watched this, but
yeah, man, many times. That's a great fight, man.
Said, did you ever watch the 88 Olympic bout between Lewis and Bowe? If so, do you think it was fair for the ref to stop that fight?
I think it was a little premature, but you have to remember it's amateur boxing, not pro. And let's be honest, man, Lewis had already hurt him in that fight and was clearly the dominant fighter. So that's what they do in amateur boxing. I mean, if that was in the pros, you'd be saying, oh, the referee's having a nightmare there. But it's amateur boxing, and the rules regarding taking punishment and that are a little bit different. But listen, man, I was a big Lennox Lewis fan. I was also a Riddick Bowe fan. But it's interesting to me that Riddick Bowe, despite a lot of the noise that came from him and his camp, I'm not totally convinced they wanted Lennox in the pros, man. I'm not. Yeah. I'm not convinced. I think Lennox would have beaten him up in the pros as well.
Yeah, well, we saw that infamous incident where he threw his WBC belt in the bin rather than face Lennox Lewis, man.
I know one thing, Lennox wouldn't have done that. That's for sure.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have thrown no belt in the bin, man. He would have wanted that fight. I mean, Lennox is, I know I'm digressing a little bit here, but that man's heart is very underrated part of his boxing. I remember watching him against Ray Mercer in a real, similar to the Wilder fight, but with more skills.
Yeah.
That was a real hard fight, man, and Lennox prevailed from that. I remember watching him. You must have seen that fight when he fought Vitaly Klitschko.
His last fight, yeah.
Battered around the ring. He was old and he was out of shape, but he hung in there and he found a way to win. That's what Lennox did, man. He's an all-time great without a doubt. He had those fights with Oliver McCall and Hasim Rahman where he lost them, and then in the return fights, you saw him dominate guys and knock them out. So he's an all-time great, man. People comparing Tyson Fury with Lennox Lewis, that is a very premature statement, bro. Because Lennox did a lot in his career, a hell of a lot.
WM has said here, it is conceivable that White sleeps Fury.
That's an interesting fight because you know what? Dylan's never been shy of telling people, has he, how many times he's knocked down Tyson Fury in sparring. And interestingly, Fury's not really denied it, has he?
No.
So, you know what I mean? That's obviously giving Dillian the confidence to call Fury out. They don't get on, by all accounts. Well, who does get on with Dillian?
Yeah.
Dillian could start an argument in an empty room. That's just the way he he is. I think
It's a great fight. I want to see that fight. I want to see
I'll tell
that
you what,
next.
the press
It's got to be
conference
next.
would be interesting in that fight.
It's got to be next.
Yeah. I really hope Dillian can get the win over Otto Wallin and get the title shot that he deserves, man. Whatever you say about Dillian, man, he's a warrior. He lays it on the line every time. He's not the most skilled. Personally, I would have Fury as a firm favorite for that fight. But like you said, man, you can't rule it out, man. It's heavyweight boxing. Yeah. Dillian can punch. Just ask Derek Chisora. Ask the Australian guy that he flatlined. You know what I mean? Ask Joseph Parker about Dillian's punching power. They'll all tell you that he can dig.
Well, maybe he'll tell Fury since he's in the Fury camp all the time.
Yeah, your mate Joseph Parker, Joseph Fury.
Dean Sinclair said here, Lennox Lewis is in my all-time heavyweight top 5. Yeah, I think he's up there, man.
Yeah,
I really do.
I was having an argument the other day with one of the casuals who works up here. He likes his boxing, and I must say I've had this same conversation with other people. He was trying to tell me that Mike Tyson was a better fighter than Lennox Lewis, and I wasn't having none of it. And I was trying to tell him, school him to the game, and tell him that, listen, man. Not only is Lewis a better fighter, he's much better fighter than Tyson. Have you ever seen Tyson come from behind in any fight, in any top fight anyway? You know what I mean? And Lennox did that plenty of times. Lennox was also a gold medal winner. He's just a better fighter. Yes, Tyson might be more exciting and, you know what I mean? And he might carry that bit more resonance with younger people and stuff like that. He was an iconic figure. I get that. I love watching him. He was a great fighter. But to me, Lennox is levels above him, bro.
Yeah, I have to agree.
Levels.
And I love Tyson.
You know what I mean? Levels. But this guy, he wouldn't have it because, like I said, people, they love the old aura around Tyson, the black shorts, the black boots, the knockouts, the highlight reel knockouts. And that's what they see. But in terms of boxing skill, boxing heart, just generally a box fighter, Lennox is better in literally every department, possibly the punching power, that's it.
Yeah. Listen, we ain't got long left, so I'll read this comment out and then I want to get your opinion on 2 more topics. Conrad has said here, White surely wouldn't get bullied in the ring, but his feet are way too slow for Fury, I think.
I would have to agree with that, but then, you know what I mean, Dillian can, you know what I mean, in previous fights, he's found a way to win. I mean, listen, Joseph Parker's quite fleet-footed, he's quite athletic, and you saw what Dillian done with him. The desire told in the end then. Yeah. And he dropped Joseph Parker heavily, something that even AJ weren't able to do. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, have to agree.
Boxing, man, that's why it's such an intriguing prospect, because the size of these men, the power they got. I remember where I live in North London, Dillian was actually in the gym one time, man, and I saw him. I came into the gym and I saw this guy going hard at it on the running machine. I was like, right, who's that? For a big guy, he's really putting in some work. When I looked close, it was Dillian. I was like, rah. And then you look at him, man, like, you know, you come close up to these guys, you see the size of him, his shoulders, his head, his hands, and you think, wow, man, these guys are a specimen.
Dillian's a big guy.
Individuals. Some of the heavyweights, people like Dillian and Fury and people like, not so much AJ, because he does look the part, not so much Wilder, he looks the part. But, you know what I mean, they've not got them sort of figures that a lot of the bodybuilder figure types, but they're very, very strong, very powerful men.
Yeah.
They may not look Adonises, but trust me, these guys, and they've got tremendous power. So, yeah, if White was to catch Fury with a left hook, I've got no doubt he could drop him. Absolutely no doubt.
That's what Ian Hamilton says here as well.
Capable of doing that. Capable.
Ian Hamilton says here as well. Now, listen, just back to the fight this weekend. Not the boxer show, but Mikey Garcia. I saw an interview on IFL, and Mikey Garcia, he's fighting Sandor Martin this weekend. Yeah. Martin defeated my boy K Prosper last time out. Big up K Prosper.
Yeah, I remember watching that. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Mikey Garcia doesn't appear to be too motivated anymore. I mean, I know you called out Josh Taylor, but even his brother's interview, Robert Garcia, he did an interview as well. And like, he was just saying like, yeah, Mikey's not really up for these type of fights. And, you know, he would have took longer out. He was going to fight Regis Prograis. And where do you see the direction of Mikey Garcia's career going? Do you think he could get? I mean, if he got the fight of Regis Prograis or Josh Taylor, because it looks like he's going to settle back down at 140. Where do you put him? Where do you position him amongst those guys now? Obviously, he's still a
question.
Fighter, where do you put him?
I think that Mikey Garcia is one of those guys. He's a very talented fighter, obviously, but I think he fights for the bag, man. He's all about the money. He's not really. His heart is not really in boxing. I remember a few years ago,
that IFL interview, he didn't look motivated at all, man.
Yeah, well, this fight, let's face it, man, it's nothing to write home about, is it? You know what I mean? Sandor Martin is a decent European level fighter. More than decent, actually. He's a good European level fighter. But when you look at, I mean, listen, Sandor Martin, his best win, no disrespect, was against people like Kay Prosper and Joseph Hughes and Anthony Yigit. Decent fighters, but come on, bro, they're not world level. I mean, look at Mikey Garcia. One time, he has been considered a pound-for-pound top 10. I mean, he's been in with people like Jesse Vargas, Errol Spence, Robert Easter Jr., Sergey Lipinets, Adrian Broner, Orlando Salido, you know what I mean? Juanmar Lopez. He's got all these names on his record. He's had 40-odd fights, 41 fights. I think he's only lost one, and that was to Errol Spence. And even then, although he was soundly beaten, he didn't get dropped or knocked out. So it's not like he's taken a load of beatings in the ring. He's just on a completely another level to Sandor Martin. And he's not boxed for ages. I get the impression with him, man, that he's not in love with the sport. He's just good at the sport.
Yeah.
You get that, you know what I mean? You get that with sportsmen. Sometimes they're not really passionate about what they do, but they're good at doing it. He's grown up in a boxing background. His brothers and his dad, they're all boxers. It's like a family business. And he happens to be very good at it. Doesn't mean to say that he's very passionate about it. And I think you see that in the lack of fights.
He's quite open with it. They were pretty open about it. Even his brother, they were just like, I'm not really. He weren't even going to take this, man. But he was just, I was just like, he don't even really care.
Whereas for Sandor Martin, this is like a world title fight for him, isn't it? This is like, if he beats Mikey Garcia, that will catapult him to another level in his career that he's not reached yet. You know what I mean? I can't see it because I think Sandor Martin as well. He's a very decent boxer, got very good footwork, but I didn't see much power there. I think he's had quite a few fights. I think I was looking at his box record. He's had like 40 fights. He's only lost 2, so he's got like 38 wins, but only 13 of them are by KO. So you're talking about a KO percentage of like 25%. Which by, high-level professional boxing standards, it's not that great. So again, Mikey Garcia is probably looking at all these things and thinking, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And another thing with Mikey Garcia, sometimes he comes into the ring and you can see by his conditioning, it's not good. He'll look quite fleshy, you know what I mean? And stuff like that. He's not on the grind like that, man.
Just goes to show how good he really is then. Because if he's not really that like motivated and he's still achieved what he's achieved, then it goes to show how good he actually is.
Yep, I agree.
Lastly, no, go on, Carrot, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, no one's excited by this fight, not even Mikey Garcia. Probably the only one that's excited about this fight is Sandor Martin. So
even Eddie Hearn was struggling to push it on the interview today. I was just,
Well, listen, if Eddie Hearn's struggling to push it, it's a hard sell because Eddie could sell you, like, he could sell sand to the Arabs. You know what I mean? You know what Eddie's like, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, listen, before we go, I know, obviously, we've spoken about this before. We know that the fight's coming in November, but I just wanted to get a quick reaction to the Crawford-Porter presser, because that did actually happen last week amongst everything. I didn't really get to see most of it, but there just seemed to be respect between the two, particularly Crawford and Kenny Porter. Crawford and Sean Porter were close in the amateurs. They know each other very well. Looking forward to this fight. Just your quick thoughts on that presser. But let me just read this comment here quickly. Francisco says here, you're right about Garcia. It's a bit disappointing because he's an excellent boxer. He has a good career. I expected more, though. Maybe he'll get Taylor or Regis. That would be cool. So, yeah.
I couldn't see him beating neither of those, to be honest, because I just don't think he's got the hunger in his boxing right now.
maybe not Taylor. I don't know about Regis, but maybe not Taylor.
Yeah, he'd
right
have
now.
a better chance against Regis, but he's definitely not beating Josh Taylor. No chance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No chance there. But
Your thoughts on the presser anyway?
yeah, listen, man, it's a fight that I'm really looking forward to. I saw the presser. Sean Porter was trying to be this passive aggressive, wasn't he? You know what I mean? 1 minute he's throwing compliments, next minute he's saying, oh, this and that. Terence Crawford was his usual calm demeanor. He's sort of simmering beneath that surface, isn't he? You know he's a badass, but you don't really want to draw it out of him, man. I mean, even his dad, even Sean Porter's dad said, yeah, Terence Crawford offered me out one night, you know what I mean, when we had a disagreement in the gym. So, you know, Terence Crawford, man, he's a proper badass guy. You know that, bro.
Yeah.
And he's got the instincts of a fighting man. Bit like Tyson Fury, bit like Canelo Alvarez, bit like Josh Taylor, actually. Dillian White. You know what I mean? These guys are like natural fighting men. It comes second nature to them. Crawford is like that. And that helps him in fights. Don't get me wrong, Sean Porter will give his best. We know he'll come in the ring in excellent condition. But the problem is, for him, is that not only has Crawford has these fighting heart and all the rest of it, he's also got the skills to back it up, which is why I'm making my pound for pound number one. Because my pound for pound champion should be drug free. Yeah. Drug free number one.
What about Usyk? Where would you put? Would you not put
Usyk could be up there. Usyk could be definitely up there, but I'd still have Crawford edging it out. But to go back to this fight, man, I think it'll be a very entertaining fight, especially for the first 5, 6, 7 rounds. But I do expect at some point Crawford's greater skill set to edge him ahead. And he may even stop Porter down the stretch. I know that sounds kind of a bit, you know what I mean, left field for some people, because Sean Porter, you know what I mean, not many people can put dents in him. But I could see Crawford doing it. At welterweight, Crawford is actually hitting very hard. He's grown into the weight. He's a little bit older now. He's, you know what I mean? And he looks strong at the weight, man. Very confident, very skillful, switch hitter. He's got everything, man. Got the chin. He hasn't got the best chin, but he's, you know, when he gets hit, a bit like Fury, he does get back up and he shows the heart. So, yeah, man, I'm going for Crawford. Like I said, I expect the first half of the fight to be very competitive, maybe even a bit after that, maybe even up to 7-8. But at some point, Crawford's skill set and sharpness and the rest of it will see him take over. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him get a wide points decision or even a late stoppage.
Avon Barksdale said here, did you see Bud call out the PBC promoter about making fights? I never saw it. I didn't see all the presser, but yeah, I didn't actually see that part.
Yeah, I've read statements what he said about that, about the PBC, Errol Spence and Crawford, and Canelo and 1 or 2 other people. So yeah, that speaks to me of a man that's got total self-confidence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think he's even said he wouldn't mind going up to through the weights and challenging Canelo. I think I read him say somewhere.
Yeah, I don't think that might be that's a step too far for me.
To me, I don't see that happening, but to me, that is an indication of how confident he is right now. He genuinely believes that nobody can't beat him. He's got that boxer and fighter's mindset. To be fair to Tyson Fury, he's got that as well, isn't it?
Yeah, he has, yeah.
He genuinely doesn't think none of those guys can beat him.
Interestingly, I saw Bob Arum in an interview last week, and Bob Arum was on some smoke during that fight week, but it was quite interesting to me because the interview was on IFL and it was taken by Andy McCart, who's a big Josh Taylor fan. And he kind of
I've met Andy McCart, and yes, he is a big Josh Taylor fan.
Yeah. He brought up Josh Taylor and Terence Crawford to Bob Arum. Obviously, both of them are promoted by Top Rank at the moment. Right. And I found it interesting that Bob Arum was just like very dismissive. He was literally just told the truth. He was just like, listen, man, Josh Taylor's a good fighter, but he's got no chance against Terence Crawford. Like, Bob Arum literally said that. I was just like, wow. Didn't think he'd come out and say that. But
well, Bob Arum is a man that is known for not sitting on the fence. You know
he just literally said it, man. It was just like, he's got no chance against Crawford.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say he's got no chance, but I would say that to me, Crawford is the better fighter.
Yeah.
Josh does get hit a little bit. You know what I mean? If you look at the Regis Prograde fight, that fight was quite close going into the later rounds, actually. But listen, man, you know what I mean? Josh Taylor seems to be getting better, doesn't he? He's not reached his peak yet, I don't think.
Yeah.
And he's a few years younger than Crawford, so you never know, man. But at the moment, yeah, right now, I'd have to say Crawford is the man. I mean, Crawford hasn't fought for a while, and he is getting a little bit older. So I guess we'll see how he gets on against Porter, who we know will be a challenge. So I'll be very interested to see how this fight goes.
Yeah, for sure. Well, listen, man, we've got to wrap it up today. We're an hour and 25 minutes in. Been another fantastic show. Chopped it up, man. Really enjoyed it. Listen, big up everybody in the chat. Don't forget to hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We've had it a day later today on Friday, so thank you for everyone for tuning in on their Friday evening. And listen, man, we've got another good weekend of fights. Maybe not as exciting as last week, but we still have some action to look forward to. And Laurie, I'll let you close it out, man.
Yeah, man, listen, thank you for the opportunity to come on here and to share my passion about boxing with you. And thanks everybody for tapping and watching, man. Truly appreciate your support. And on to the next one, man. It's been a great week of boxing. And let's hope next week is also, well, approaching that good anyway.
Yeah. Big up everybody, man. Big up DS as well. He's put here, I would like to see a Taylor versus Prograis rematch before Taylor steps up. I thought Reed just won the first fight. I thought Taylor won the first fight for me, but it was close.
It was close, yeah.
Yeah. But now, big up everybody, man. And we'll catch up with you all next week. Have a good weekend. And we'll see you all soon, man. Take it easy.
Respect, man. Take care.